All right, let's get right into this. Welcome to this explainer on literature's absolute longest and deadliest commute, the Odyssey Explained, the complete story of Odysseus' 10-year journey home. Today, we're going to map out a massive 20-year saga, but we aren't just looking at this as some simple monster of the week adventure. We are really going to unpack it as a grueling, profound psychological battle of memory, discipline, and sheer human endurance.
Before we even get to the monsters or the angry gods, we need to define our anchor for today. The ancient Greeks paired the word nostos, meaning homecoming, with algos, meaning pain, to give us nostalgia. And this perfectly captures what this entire journey is fundamentally about. It's that agonizing, human ache for return. The terrible effort of continuing to want an incredibly difficult, painful homecoming, when an easy escape, or just a peaceful forgetting, is sitting right in front of you.
So, here is our roadmap for today. First, the kingdom without a king. Second, the fall of Troy. Third, monsters, magic, and mistakes. Fourth, the journey into death. Fifth, the choice of mortality. And finally, the final reckoning.
Part 1. The Kingdom Without a King, the Bleeding Estate of Ithaca. It's kind of wild, but the original epic poem doesn't actually kick off with our hero fighting a sea monster. Nope, it drops us right into the broken home he left behind 20 years ago. 108. That is the staggering number of strong, young noblemen who have literally moved into Odysseus' palace. They're devouring his livestock, draining his wine cellars day after day, all while pressuring Queen Penelope to marry one of them. In the Bronze Age, a kingdom without a king was basically a wound that simply wouldn't close. These suitors have taken the sacred Greek custom of xenia, which is this beautiful law of guest friendship, and totally weaponized it. They've turned a tradition of hospitality into a slow, smiling form of legal robbery against a queen who has absolutely no army and no certainty her husband is even alive. She only has her patience, famously unweaving a burial shroud every single night for 3 years just to stall them.
Moving to Section 2, the fall of Troy, the trap of an oath and a wooden horse. To really understand why Odysseus ever left his rocky, windswept island in the first place, we have to look at the timeline. It condenses the massive scale of the story. Odysseus was pulled into a decade-long siege because of a political oath that he himself actually designed to keep the peace in Greece. That oath dragged him and 600 of his men away, trapping him in 10 years of bloody war at Troy, which was immediately followed by another 10 agonizing years of just wandering the sea.
When 10 years of blood proved that the great walls of Troy just couldn't be taken by force, Odysseus stepped up as the mind of the army. He devised this famous 4-step plan to infiltrate the unbreakable city. It was a massive psychological trick, relying entirely on discipline and absolute silence inside the dark belly of a wooden horse. It ultimately led to a brutal and sacrilegious sack of the city, which, ironically, ended up angering the very gods who had supported them.
All right, Section 3, monsters, magic, and mistakes. The price of curiosity and appetite.
So, they sail away from the smoking ruins of Troy with 12 ships, and the homeward journey almost immediately unravels. And it's not just because of the gods, but due to catastrophic failures of human discipline, pride, and greed. The threats they faced right out of the gate were incredibly varied. The Lotus Eaters didn't want to kill the crew. They offered a sweet fruit that completely erased the desire for homecoming, offering a painless forgetting. But then you have the Cyclops, which was a brutal physical trap, one that Odysseus walked his men directly into purely out of reckless curiosity to see who lived in the cave. Inside the cave, Odysseus pulls a genius move. He uses the fake name Nobody to trick the giant Polyphemus. When the blinded giant screams for help, his friends literally just walk away, because he's yelling, "Nobody is killing me." And here's the tragedy of it. As they sail away to safety, Odysseus' desperate need for personal glory, for his name to be known, makes him stand up in the boat and shout his real name, his title, and his home address across the water. It's a total unforced error.
And that boast came with a massive price tag. The Cyclops was a son of Poseidon, and armed with Odysseus' true name, he cursed him. The consequences were fast and devastating. Soon after, the exhausted crews anchored in this beautiful, perfectly calm harbor. Odysseus, being paranoid, tied his single ship on the rocks outside. That paranoia saved his life, because the harbor was actually a trap set by giant cannibals called the Lastrygonians. They rained boulders down, and 11 of his 12 ships were massacred in a single afternoon.
Section 4. The Journey into Death, Facing the Hard Truths of the Underworld.
Reduced to just one single ship, Odysseus spends a year with the goddess Circe, and she drops a bombshell. The only way home is to literally sail to the edge of the world and consult the dead. Down in the underworld, the thematic core of our story gets really deep. He meets the ghost of the great warrior Achilles, the guy who famously chose a short, glorious life over a long, quiet one. But here, in the dark, Achilles hits him with this devastating line. It's a striking realization that immortal glory in a song is absolutely worthless compared to actually being alive, breathing on the earth.
Armed with those grim truths from the dead, Odysseus goes back to Circe, who gives him this incredibly specific, brutal checklist to navigate the final nautical horrors. He has to use wax to survive the Sirens' knowledge-promising song. He has to consciously choose to sacrifice 6 of his men to the unbeatable monster Scylla just to avoid losing the whole ship to the whirlpool Charybdis. And above all else, the golden rule: they must not eat the sacred cattle of the sun god.
Section 5. The Choice of Mortality. 7 years with Calypso.
So, pinned on an island by storms, his starving crew disobeys that final, most important rule, and they eat the sun god's cattle. Zeus instantly destroys the last ship, and a lone, half-drowned Odysseus washes up onto the island of the goddess Calypso. She keeps him there for 7 long years. She loves him, and she offers him the ultimate prize of eternal youth and immortality, if he will just stay and be her husband. Which really challenges us to ask this pivotal question: why refuse immortality? Why would anyone say no to paradise?
This right here is the thematic climax of this explainer. For 7 years, Odysseus continuously sits on the rocky shore, weeping, looking east. He totally concedes that Calypso is a beautiful, deathless goddess, but he actively chooses the painful, messy reality of a mortal wife, an aging body, and a difficult human life over a painless, divine fantasy. He just wants his own life back.
Finally, Section 6. The Final Reckoning. The Brutal Restoration of Order.
Eventually ordered by the gods to release him, Calypso lets him sail. After one last devastating storm and shipwreck from Poseidon, Odysseus wakes up in Ithaca. But he doesn't waltz in as king. He enters his own palace completely disguised as a filthy old beggar. I mean, think about the devastating arithmetic of this journey for a second. 600 men sailed away from Troy to return to Ithaca. Exactly 1 man returns to stand in his own great hall to face the 108 armed suitors who have been bleeding his estate dry. The man who couldn't stay silent in a boat after blinding the Cyclops has been completely educated by trauma. He has become the most patient liar in literature. He executes this flawless 4-step intelligence operation right in front of his enemies. He endures their insults, tests his loyal servants, has his son Telemachus hide all their armor, and waits for Queen Penelope to announce a contest to string his old hunting bow. While the arrogant suitors are failing to even bend the weapon, the disguised beggar casually takes it. With the doors locked and the weapons hidden, Odysseus effortlessly strings the bow no one else could bend. As he plucks the string, it sings like a swallow's note. The illusion shatters, Zeus thunders from a clear sky, and alongside his son, Odysseus delivers a truly ruthless and bloody restoration of order to his stolen home.
So what is the crucial point we take away from this monumental epic? It's captured perfectly in this one line he mutters to himself while listening to his enemies in his own house. "Endure, heart. You endured worse the day the Cyclops ate your comrades." Surviving this world doesn't require innocence. It requires immense discipline, pattern recognition, and just this unbreakable capacity to simply endure the hardest things.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this really provocative thought to chew on. The true cost of nostalgia is incredibly high, and the endurance required to just live a mortal life is astounding. When given the choice between a comfortable illusion and a painful reality, which would you choose to endure?